Hi guys, welcome back to the Social Tune, and today we're taking a look at the new album by Oddisee, The Iceberg.
When someone asks questions like, can I be afforded the most? Better answer me with more than a no. I'm trying to tell you. Never not getting enough. In this life that I'm leaving, and all I believe in. Y'all know I ain't leaving, I'm posted like.
So we all have that one act that we always mean to check out and yet we never really get around to it. I'm certainly guilty of this, as people are always recommending new bands and artists for me to check out. Now, one of the best things about reviewing albums on this channel is that it's given me a reason to go back through the discographies of certain artists in order to talk about them. From Thundercat to Sun Kil Moon to Surfer Blood. So considering how much BZ430 has praised this guy for years now on Dead End Hip Hop, I've been meaning to check him out for a while. Oddisee, a DC rapper with one of the most consistent discographies I've ever come across, probably the most consistent since the indie rock band Spoon. And after releasing 2 projects in 2016, he followed it up without missing a beat with this album, The Iceberg. So, curious as ever and on a real high after going through his back catalogue, I decided to check it out for myself. And thankfully, it's excellent. And the great thing about it is, it's not just a great album, it's a great Oddisee album, as I would easily put this in the top tier of his releases. An incredibly smart, sharp, lean, witty project that you should all check out. So, let's start things off with the production.
I'm not the only one to notice that. I'm cutting all my ties. I think it's time to stop holding back.
So one of the great things about Oddisee is that he's more than just a rapper. He's also a producer who has produced all of his own projects, usually pulling on samples and beats that he chooses himself. And believe me, he has great taste, as he always seems to know just what elements to bring together in order to make something that sounds best for his voice. However, on this album, it seemed he wanted to be more ambitious than ever, as he actually invited a band to play the instrumentation on this album, from horns to pianos to guitars to drums to bass, you name it. And add to that his own beats and of course his own mixing, and you can easily see why I've been looking forward to this. And thankfully, it does not disappoint. Like, take the horn, bass, and snaps that open up the album on Digging Deep, which then transitions into a bouncy, watery beat that sounds great on the verses, before the bass, hand claps, and drums come in for the chorus, and it's oh so awesome. Or take the more retro-sounding, smooth funk touches of This Girl I Know, with some incredibly sharp drums, cymbals, and bass that sound phenomenal. And those funk touches show up all over this album on songs like Rights and Wrongs, Want to Be, and Built by Pictures. Which is great, I love funk music, but if you think that means that the rest of this album doesn't kick ass, then you are sorely mistaken. Like the grand horns and the gospel coos of Rain Dance, the rollicking beat and hand claps on Things, the more calculated, synthesized beat on Hold It Back with one of the catchiest choruses on the album, or the mournful, slower tune and bass guitar on the somber song You Grew Up. Not to mention the drums at the end of that track, which lead into the great beat of Never Not Getting Enough. And as for instrumentals I didn't like, well, I wasn't a huge fan of the slower beat and the drums, Cassiopeia, and guitars on the chorus of Waiting Outside, even though the lyrics were absolutely awesome. And even then, it was still incredibly catchy, as is pretty much this entire album. Seriously, it may take a few listens, but once those hooks have you, they do not let go. I guess if I did have one complaint, it would be that the tracks occasionally take a while to end. Which builds up great atmosphere and gives you a chance to breathe, sure. But still, for a guy who is so meticulous about his production, moments like the drawn-out ending on Rain Dance, or the sounds of the city settling at the end of Want to Be and This Girl I Know are a little odd. And true, the ending track is kind of guilty of this too, but damn it, the ad-lib at the end was funny. And heck, those are nitpicks. It doesn't take away from how great these songs sound. And of course, Oddisee and the rest of the performers here do a great job too.
We on a different page, same play, different stage. Waited on the street to say hi. Must have missed the wave, a way to call to come back. I know this girl around town. She cool, she cool, she cool. And she coming around, when the one around. She come through.
Let me start off by saying I love this guy's flow. I know that some people will probably use the excuse that he makes his own beats so he makes it easier on himself, but he rides them so smoothly that it's still damn impressive. And while he never breaks down in tears or anything, his voice is still very expressive and compelling. I just love to listen to him rap. He occasionally sings too, and he's honestly not bad in that department either, as he handles most of the hooks on this album effortlessly. Even so though, it was great to hear Oliver St. Louis' contributions to the final track Rights and Wrongs, as he does an absolutely fantastic job on both the chorus and the first verse. Otherwise, the other guest rapper is Toine, and he does a great job on Never Not Getting Enough, as his verse dives into the fact that he no longer raps for the respect and adulation of others, but rather for the things that really matter to him, like the Black Lives Matter movement. Because yeah, in a way, you could actually call this a political album.
Never mind, it's the feeling I've been wanting for time. Flying blind to a wall, strong drawing to shine. I just looked at the pictures. Didn't add a manual to build this, just assembled it for feelings. Looking at pictures. I was given tools meant for building, with no instruction for the wielding. Look at the picture.
Now, one of the things I love about Oddisee's discography is the topics that he chooses to sing about in his music. He never explores grand concepts in great detail in order to deliver groundbreaking views like a rapper like Kendrick would, because that's not what he's trying to do. Instead, he states simple truths that the everyman can relate to. For example, on the most political song here, Like Really, he does mention politics, but he also asks why people are taking holidays when they're in debt, or why girls are flirting with him when he's happily married. And the great thing is, the political questions on that track are still so sharp, as he asks how you're going to make America great again if it wasn't that great to begin with, considering it used to hang black people in the streets. But yeah, Oddisee has never really dived into politics on any of his previous projects, which he freely admits on Digging Deep and Hold It Back. But on those songs, he also makes it clear that things have got so messed up that he can't keep silent any longer. Heck, that's the whole point of Hold It Back. Like on Waiting Outside, where he dives into depression within the black community, who are expected to just internalize all their anger and frustration. Or take the chilling stories on You Grew Up, as the first verse tells the story of one of his childhood friends who, despite being white, was really close to him. And yet, once his dad got fired, he blamed the immigrants, eventually growing up to be a cop who shot a black man. The second verse is about a Muslim boy who gets bullied so much that he eventually turns to extremism, with one line striking particularly hard: "People of the present had faces of the past. Make it easier to blast them if he feel like they did him wrong." And even Oddisee himself decides to settle for good enough at the end of the track, even though he counters that point on the following track, Never Not Getting Enough, where he encourages the black community to keep hoping despite the trials thrown their way. Hell, on Want to Be, where he's initially struggling with the way that others perceive him, he comes to a conclusion, namely that he just wants to be happy and be himself, so fuck what everyone else thinks.
Why you want to catch my eye when you already know that I'm taking? Nah, like really? How you pass through on payments and I'm seeing you on vacation? Nah, like really? How you gonna make us great when we were never really that amazing? Nah, like really? Take it back to what? On fine, hang a black lives entertaining. Nah, like really?
But like I said, he doesn't just limit himself to one topic, as Hold It Back also dives into fake people and the wage gap. And the reason for this is, as he points out on Things, no one is worry-free. We all have our burdens that we're dealing with. Because, as he states on the following track, Built by Pictures, no one has a manual to life. We're all just winging it, going with our guts, desperately trying to keep it interesting and fulfilling. And yet, it's funny, with all of the great topics that he dives into on this album, my favorite song is probably This Girl I Know, a callback to Common's song I Used to Love Her, where the girl in the song is the rap game. And while he could say that she's cheating on him, constantly flirting with other guys, other rappers, he knows that she looks best on his arm, and that despite all their struggles, he still loves her. So yeah, this is fantastic. Like I mentioned, I have a couple of nitpicks, but no real complaints. This album is ridiculously smooth, sharp, likable, and just long enough. So yeah, extremely strong, 8 out of 10. Definitely give this a listen. It is well worth your time. Bravo, Oddisee. It has taken me far too long to finally get around to listening to your music, but I'm glad that I'm finally on board. So thank you guys for watching. If there are any other albums coming out in the next month or so, please post them in the comments or tweet them at me so I can listen to them and possibly review them. You'll find a link to my Twitter in the description. Feel free to follow me if you'd like. Please subscribe so you don't miss a thing, and until the next time, I'm Finn, and this is the Social Tunes, signing off.